Hello, Detroit. Happy Sunday. And thank you so much for the invite. I am always happy to talk to folks from Detroit. I got a special feeling for Detroit residents, and that's because most of my family on my father's side lives there. My grandma came from a family of 13 siblings, and 10 of them ended up in Detroit. We come from a place called Patton Junction in Alabama, and they moved to Detroit as part of the Great Migration back in the teens of the early part of the 20th century. When most black folk, a big section of African Americans, left the South, moved north and Midwest, West, looking for jobs and better opportunities and hey, to get rid of some of that racism, or at least so they thought. What they found is another story. But they were propelled to get up out of Alabama as a result of a very bitter strike that took place. They were coal miners, and there was a strike, and they attempted to break it, and there was a pitched gun battle, and many people died, mainly on the other side, so I'm told. And so, in order not to get lynched or shot, they had to get up out of there. And here's an interesting part of the story. They sent in troops to break the strike. But the poor whites in the adjoining county, check this out, cut the railroad tracks so that the troops couldn't get in. And so the strikers were able to flee. And to make a long story short, they ended up in at least 10 of my grandmother's siblings and mama and daddy in Detroit, where they worked mainly in auto, Ford, Chrysler, so on and so forth. Well, I love Detroit. Happy New Year. Congrats on the club conference as you plan your work for the next several months. We've been following it. We talked to Steve and Laura, in particular, Laura. And I was very happy to read about your activities and Cameron's excellent summary of the club's work and housing. Oh my goodness. Go ahead, y'all. You're doing it. Peace, labor, strike support. And I'm really, really excited to hear about the plans for running candidates for office. We are also very pleased to read about your club educationals and focus on the party program in particular. Do you know we have found that a big chunk of party membership, new members rather, maybe most, haven't read it and ain't familiar with its ideas and politics? And that's a problem. It's a big one. Because when you join the party, you're joining more than a name. You're joining more than a notion, but a history, right? A political practice, no? A program. And that program has been shaped and debated and discussed party memberships, and it's voted on at the convention. And you know what? It's binding. You just can't pick and choose what parts you like and what parts you don't like. Oh, I'm down with the international policy. Workers of the world unite. But I don't like your electoral policy. Or, up with the labor policy. But all this identity politics stuff, abortion, affirmative action, I don't think so. No. There's something called democratic centralism in the party. And members are obliged to live and act politically, at least within the party, within its framework. You know what I'm saying? But most importantly, for the club conference, you've got to think about what it means for your upcoming work. Labor and housing, fighting police murder, for your electoral work. Speaking of which, as I said at the top, I've been advocating, pushing. In fact, I quoted you at the National Committee of running our own candidates. But that shouldn't blind us to the need to work with others in the People's Front Against Fascism, electorally. And you know what? There's only one way to do that. We, comrades, have a very dangerous situation in front of us, and we got to fight our way out of it with others with whom we don't agree. And you got a bunch of fascists running the U.S. House of Representatives now. That so-called Freedom Caucus. Talk about a misnomer. And they got the Speaker, Mr. McCarthy, in a straitjacket. Then you got 27, I think, states with a governor, the state legislature, upper house, lower house, run by that ilk. Add to that the Supreme Court. Danger, man. And so if we're not working with others, we run our own. Got to start somewhere. But let's not do it in a narrow way. If we're not doing that, comrades, we're making a mistake. Broadly speaking, the NC set 3 basic tasks for this year. 1, fighting fascism. 2, building the party in the PW. Speaking of the PW, we got to raise $50,000 more this year than we did last year. We got to bring in $175,000 by May Day and the rest $200,000 by the end of the year. So we hope y'all will think about a goal in conjunction with your state committee. Comrades, thanks again for the invite. Have a good club conference. And we hope to meet you soon in person. Rosanna and I are getting on the road, y'all. We want to meet all these new clubs, new members in the next several months. So until we get there, and I keep hearing about some rumor about getting invited to come to Detroit to speak. It's been a rumor so far. But whether we invited or not, we're coming. That's what back home in Youngstown, we call that Bogart. We just gonna come anyway. And we hope to see you then and enjoy some conversation and some good food and some good political activity. So until then, stay strong, stay safe, and whatever you do, please stay in the fight. Take care, y'all.